this morning. And if you give us a little bit of a breakdown of what's going to happen here, once I'm done speaking, Beth is going to come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment, any bigger picture items over the course of the evening or this morning that makes sense to be looking at, as well as news events affecting the market. After that's done, I'm going to be going through names that are gapping up, gapping down that I'm looking at today. We'll build an action plan for those names, go through the news associated with those gap up, gap downs, as well as a SPY, the FANG, the VIX, Qs, and IWM. Once that's done, Self-Beach will come on, go through any analyst calls he's looking at for today, macro environment, as well as individual names. And then we'll do a quick little recap of those names that I looked at that are gapping up, gapping down, as well as a SPY and the FANG, and we'll be ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go and pass over to Beth, and I will talk to you guys in a little bit. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Pre-market here, Wednesday mornings, SpartanTrading.com. This is what we do every Wednesday and every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday as well. Welcome. Lots of interesting things happening, right? So we're basically discussing with Pfizer, they came out that you need the booster in order for this to be effective against Omicron. So then all the opening names were down, now the opening names are up. Gonna be interesting, right? Okay, so API crude stocks, this is fascinating. I mean, this was a draw. I mean, should have been a build. So that was kind of interesting right there. Overnight, not a lot. Okay, ECB, some ECB heads talking. We do have a jolt job openings this morning, pre-market. Pretty quiet, in terms of, as we lumber down to at the FOMC and then the end of the year, right? So it was, yesterday felt like a FOMO type day, right? People went long, they wanted to get long. So now the penultimate question for me is, was this basically a bounce in a downtrend, or is this a meaningful low? And I'm going to defer to Spartan on that. But today we're going to do a deep dive once again on the Russell, just for shits and giggles. Okay, JP Morgan says, trust this bounce. Okay, whatever. Here's the news, right? But it's the booster that you have to get, right? Now, what's really interesting is this mixing and matching. So does that mean if you get a Pfizer booster against a Moderna well, anyways, it hurts my head. The reality still is, from all that we've seen, that even if you get this variant, it seems to have mild symptoms. I don't know. We'll see. We have to get used to this reality. This is the present and the future, possibly going forward like the flu is forever in a day. Okay. EU agency adores mix and match. I thought they already did this. I don't know. Anyways. All right. This is what our gal Kathy Wood said. She says that the inventory buildup, okay, is just stocking up for supply. And then she feels we're going to go into a deflationary cycle as a result of that, because there's going to be a lot of inventory, and then the prices are going to go down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We actually won't know whether she's right or wrong, right, for a couple more months. But this is her narrative. It's an interesting narrative. It really is. We'll see how it plays out. And she's the only one that I know of who's actually talking this way, discussing this as a deflation with the inventory buildups. Okay, all right, whatever. This is interesting. So if you live in Singapore and you're not vaccinated and you get COVID, guess what? You have to pay for your hospital stay. That's an incentive, right? Well, the only good news about this whole thing is that a lot of people who didn't get vaccinated are scared out of the bejeebies, and they're actually rushing to get vaccinated here in the United States. I don't know, we'll see. All right, Amazon emerges the world. This is really, it's really fascinating. I mean, obviously the union would say, meh, but I think this is the present and the future, to be honest with you. Now, there's a lot of things you can say against Amazon in terms of their employees and stuff like that. But, I don't know. I do not know. All right, so this I haven't seen before. The reason why they're saying there's a labor shortage is because millions are sick with the long COVID. So basically a long hauler. I actually am a long hauler as well. So I understand thankfully I can work, but there's a lot of young people who actually are tethered to, oxygen tanks and stuff like that. So maybe they're somewhat right on this one. I don't know. Right? This stock is a pure bet on the metaverse. Okay. They're saying Roblox. Okay, IBM, Apple, Nvidia, MTTO, right? Because they build cameras. I haven't seen this stuff sweeping on Apple, so everybody's getting in this. But CEO says eBay. I don't know, whatever. I agree with this. I don't know what it means, but I agree with this. So, how we're looking at EV as the present and future, we have to look at the metaverse as the present and future. All right, let's see what our gal, I have a new gal, Lizanne, love her stuff. This is really interesting. When first season 2020 Russell 1000 growth outpaced the Russell 1000 value. Okay, so this is the penultimate discussion, right? Growth versus value, right? Data showing electronic trading at nominal value. Anyways, check it out. All right, what did we get? So I'm not the only one who likes to do this. Basically, what this feature is spreads. Okay, stocks versus bonds, commodities, and real estate. So they're doing what we do all the time here. Okay, and it should be fairly obvious. All you have to do is just bring up the chart and you do a spread. Okay, so this is the 20-year, right, against the 1 to 3 year treasury bonds. So that's what they're saying. All right, a big adjustment in sentiment. This is smart money, dumb money. Just for those of you keeping tabs with the dumb money. Smart money are those asset managers and institutions. So what does this mean? This is the widest it's been, right? The market's coming in. All right, big positive spreads led to positive returns going out 1 month. Ooh, 88%. Let's do it. 73%, 2 weeks. The spread between small money dummies is getting wider, yada, yada, yada. And it's greater than 40%. 1 year out, 10%. I don't know. The problem I have with this, right? And I say this all the time, quantitative easing. But let's look at our sector map, okay, in terms of this. All right, so what's the materials, technology, discretionary? So basically technology all the way out, positive. Believe it or not, industrials all the way out. Materials, modestly, this one flat month. Defensive stocks, right? Cyclicals, large caps, well, pretty much everybody, right? Fund flows. Yesterday was a big day. They bought more SPY and they bought some IW1. We haven't seen that in a while, right? On the other side, there wasn't a lot of selling that went on. And this is the problem we have now. 10-day, basically we have a sea of red, right? That tends to be a headwind. I don't like it when we see this. But remember, the market can stay extended on the upside far greater than it can on the downside. That's Keynesian Rule 101. You don't pick tops because the extensions can carry on. Remember how with the XLE, it was months that it was extended before it had a pullback? It's not a good look if you pick tops. That's all I'm saying. Here we are. Look at that. Austria, 80s, top little country. There's US, Mexico, whatever. Okay. Let's talk about seasonality. We haven't talked about it for this month. It's sloppy choppy. So I have to say, sloppy choppy to the middle of the month then. And we talk about this every day. Seasonality, beginning of the month to mid-month, sloppy choppy, downward bias. And then the tailwind comes at the end of the month into the next few months. Now the question at hand, obviously, did this accelerate in the front of it? I don't know. All I know is that we have to be a little bit careful. I did start to put a little bit of hedges back on just as a little starter, right? Let's see what our Fed head peeps are saying here. What are we looking at? We're looking at the merge contract, all right? So every day they continue to increase hike, right? We started at a lowly 9 a month ago. Now we're up to 41%, okay? This is it. This is important. This is what the market's starting to factor in, a Fed funds hike in March, okay? The FOMC, the market is expecting it to be aggressive in its tapering. Let's see what happens with that. Does this Omicron make a difference? I don't think so, to be honest with you. The thing that's going to make the, well, obviously it's the PCE trimmed, right? That's what they like to look at. And then it's the labor force. So this one's non-farm payrolls was kind of, I don't know, an outlier. Hey, let's see what our peeps are doing here, peeps and peepettes. We got somebody out of Morgan Stanley, IFNNF, downgraded. He's a 93% dude. He's right 38% of the time. Stitch Fix, oh my God. Can you say zero? I don't know if anybody who uses this product. AIP, Amazon, today got a reiteration. Okay, we'll take it. Dave and Buster's, reiteration. See yourself. All right, we'll see. Okay, hype. What's being hyped today, my friends? Apple of my eye. We haven't had a 6 in a while, right? Apple's being hyped. I still got my stuff on. Got a little bit of a hedge, but I still got my stuff on. I actually bought a little bit for this week again, right? So APPS, Digital Turbine, AVGO has earnings today. CME, Casco, and Valet. Flows. What came in at the end of the day, guys? Someone had a desperate need to buy puts at the end of the day. Interestingly enough, they were buying ARKK calls on Monday and last week. Now they're buying yesterday they bought puts all day long. Okay, IWM had puts. I'm going to kind of go on a limb here and say that won't end well, but the problem I have with that is it's today's expiration, right? Ouch. Paid a lot of money for it too. Let's see what our option Sona is saying. You got it. Apple of my eyes. 27 million on the call side, 3 million on the put side. Tesla, kind of flattish, right? And don't forget, this is why it's so important. Where did I put my thing? Right? You have to see what's going on in terms of the world as we know it. Right? So just saying, there was crazy, this is what happened with Tesla, remember? We had crazy hundreds and thousands of contracts being bought and sold intraday on Tesla. Now it's Apple's time. And I think it's deservingly so, right? To talk about that virtual reality, right? We haven't even gotten into the EV side, right? So, I don't know, bonds, let's do it. Yield continues to flatten. Sloppy choppy overseas, up and down and all around. Let's see what our 5-year is doing. This is the note as opposed to the yield. You can see it's coming down. I'm not concerned about it, but everybody is. I mean, this is a natural progression, right? When your economy is doing well. In the 5-year, we know is the taper one. Here's the 5s against 10s, kicking ass 5 once again, going up here. This is the quadrant before we had quantitative easing, right? It would not, this is where problem, more than likely, this is where it's going to hang out for multiple months. That's what I'm thinking, right? US 10-year, as you can see, no look to it at all, just in the, it's almost in the mid of the range. So that continues to show that the 10-year is really not that important. Here's the 210, you can see here, right? Yield curve flattening. Here's the 1030. I'm going to start just doing the 5s against everything soon. But you can see here, that's also flattening, right? German 10-year bounced off, reclaiming this pivot, as you can see right there. Let's see, it should continue to stay in this quadrant. But I think that with the the market got the yips. So don't forget, a lot of what we're seeing right now is based off of is the past as opposed to the future, right? So we'll see. China, same thing. Yields are bouncing a little bit. Don't forget, they did do a little bit of, they lowered their rates, their borrowing rates, right? So we continue to see money coming into quantitative easing to stabilize their markets. Okay, let's see what's going on here in the commodities. Gold up slightly, silver down slightly, platinum, palladium up and down and all around, crude's up slightly, right? Natural gas. Now this is really what's interesting, right? And the reason why this is happening, corn, soybeans, cotton, etc., is because we're having a very mild winter so far. Okay, wheat, stuff like that. Okay, crude. All right, so basically it's in this pivot point right now. I don't know if we actually reclaim it, to be honest with you. I'm kind of pleased with it in this box. So, I don't know. All right, here's UNG natural gas. Ouch. I'm actually thinking of buying some again, guys and gals. I don't know. And it's bottom end of the Bollinger. It is off an extension. I'll keep an eye on it. We do have a gap to fill, right? So I might. We'll see. Gold, crude. Once again, I think this is the range, and I think we're just going to bounce up and down. And now we're in the mid, so nothing there, right? Gold against lumber, fascinating. Okay, so gold is losing against lumber. This is notable, right? And this is an H, right? It's a monthly chart. Not a good look. So with all that happened with the lumber selling off, right? Now we're starting to see it rally against gold. This is an actively traded spread, just so you know. Gold against copper. We look at nothing here. I mean, copper's been pretty benign here with everything, right? So nothing going on there. Oh my God, we got to talk about it. Cryptos. I have no idea. It's just whatever. I don't even look at it in my portfolio. I just don't even look at it in my wallets, stuff like that. Okay, talk about indices. Continuation of the bounce, kind of slowing down a little bit selling overseas, right? VIX is down a little bit. I think this, we're going to keep an eye on that. Spartan obviously shouts that out throughout the day, right? And then you can see here overseas in Nifty 50, really nice India, nice rally there. CSI in the 850s, the 850s really rallying in China. Okay, let's look at the DAX. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on the DAX. Cyrus consolidation, no breakout yet. Let's look at the NASDAQ against the DAX. Double top, notable, right? So what are we looking at this? We're looking for this. If it starts to break down, then once again, there's going to be a rotation of funds into Europe. That's what it's telling us, into the German markets. Here's a SPY against DAX. Inside month so far, right? It tends to hold. I just can't imagine. This is a new quadrant, so we'll see how this plays out. And you can see here, this is where we've been, and this is where we are right now. And so you can see right here, right? So, and then you can even, if you want to make it smaller, you can go like that. So as long as it holds here, I think the SPY is going to outperform the DAX. Now, this is kind of interesting. Even with the sell-off and what we saw in the IWM, right? You know, DAX really didn't gain that much. So this is going to be interesting. My inclination is that the small caps will start to outperform the DAX. Right, so that would be EFA, IWM. Here's the Dow against the DAX, A2. So the Dow has been strengthening against the DAX, and this looks like one of the strongest, right? It's up here, has not broken down. It's still inside this quadrant. We need a little bit of time to see how this plays out. Well, obviously we'll have clarity by the end. So we've been discussing this about K-Web, meaningful bounce off of this low, double bottom here, risk reward. We're trying to reclaim this quadrant again. It has a lot of work to be done, a lot of work to be done. There's no, in terms of risk reward, I still have some, I still have a little bit of hedges on. Okay, not much. So what's going to happen is if I have to give this a little bit of time, right? So we'll see how that plays out. And here you have BABA. You know, I don't like this. So basically I am going to buy some BABA puts. Why? because it's the upper end of the quadrant. It was not able to break and hold above this pivot. So that's notable for me on the monthly. If it does break and hold above it, then yeah. So now what do we have going on here? We basically have a kick-ass range, right, of this. That's what we have. Okay, all right, let's take a peek. All right, VXN. This is a monthly. This is why I bought some VXX puts. I got out of them too soon. Believe it or not, I bought a little bit of VXX for next week, the monthly calls, and I spread against it. So we'll see if it starts to reclaim. I'll cover the right side of it and just let it sit around for a while. I don't know if we're going to get the volatility. I think we're going to have wide ranges, but it's a function of velocity, right? And this is this is what's so fascinating about this is that in theory it's meant to go to zero, but you can see it's not. All right, so it continues to hang up here, and this may be the new norm because we're talking about this going all the way back here for quite some time. So I mean, you're talking years. I just don't know. All right, so this is the VXN. So whenever we get to this top pivot, and you can see here that we're actually making lower highs, right? Right, so we have this extension, right? And this is the spread. So where are we right now? We're at the mid, that's where we're at. So basically, if it gets down here, this is when you want to buy the VIX. Okay, like FANG. All right, it's all about risk reward, right? We talked about it. Now it's kind of in the upper 1/3 quadrant, so there's really not a hell of a lot for us to do here. There's no, on a risk reward basis, there's no real setup for us right now. Dow against the FANG, sideways consolidation is a monthly, all right? So see how that plays out, right? FANG against the S&P. So FANG is actually bouncing. Okay, it's pretty interesting, I think. I mean, I think when obviously this quadrant, you can see that, right? So in this, right here. And this is the lower end of the quadrant. So what does this mean? That actually FANG can continue to bounce, but it got rebuffed, right, at this 38.2% fib. So we have to be a little careful with these individual, the FANG as a whole. Obviously, this is a stock picker's market. I mean, and that's what we do here. What Spartan's so brilliant with is his technical prowess. So that's my story. It's a good story. Anyways, welcome. Once again, for those of you who are new, as well as those of you who are following us on our live YouTube stream, it's time for me to pass it on to Spartan. Are you ready, sir?
Just need a minute here, Beth.
Okay. All right, let's keep going on here. All right, so here's FANG against the NASDAQ. This is why I look, this is the weekly, okay? And let's look at the monthly, okay? So we'll just put the fibs up right now. Okay, so as you can see here, FANG is starting to reclaim. This is a meaningful, it's trying to reclaim, this is the reversion to the mean, right? And this is, you can see right here, this is a pivot point. So we have a double bottom one. Well, actually, let's say triple bottom, okay? The reality is though, whenever you're looking at these things, if you don't grab it off of this extension, the risk reward changes. So this is still the bottom 1/3 of this range right here. It needs to start reclaiming these fibs as well as this downtrend line. And what would that be? That would basically be Apple, Amazon continuation, Netflix, right? Google, Facebook probably as well. I mean, we're seeing all of these individual tickers looking much better than they have in a while, right? Here's the FANG against the Russell. Here's another one. Basically, this is a monthly. It's been holding up, but well, it's fascinating. Obviously, this is up at the upper quadrant, right? 1/4, you can see that, and that's a function of the Russell, the small caps losing. The market got punished for front running the small caps into year end, okay? And that's exactly what happened. They basically got smacked, right? So what happened? We have this failed double top. We didn't have a break below into this quadrant, and that accelerated to the downside, into the Bollinger, into the support system, okay? We have a double bottom. You can see here that it basically is holding fine. The reality is, though, on the Russell, we have to take out last week's high. That's the pivot. If we don't, then we run the potential of rolling over. It's that simple. Let's take a look at the SPY against the Russell, right? So we looked at the FANG, now we're looking at the SPY. Now this is where it's really amazing, okay? You would have thought that with the kind of move we had in the SPY, all-time highs, and what the kind of sell-off we had in the Russell, right, to the bottom end, we should have taken this out, and we didn't. So this is a huge divergence, okay? And this is telling me that we are indeed setting up, okay, for a potential break out on the Russell, okay? Until we actually take out this high, and you can see here, this is a 78.6% fib, right? This is a divergence, and this is notable, okay? So what would happen? We would start to see it breaking down below these fibs, okay? And then you can see rolling over, right? So then what we would see is something like this. If indeed the Russell small caps is going to start to outperform, that's what we're going to see. Here's the Russell against the NASDAQ, double top. Once again, you can see huge divergence, right? We did not take it out, which is what you would have expected, right? Now, it did get to the 78.6, this is a monthly, but it's not breaking and holding last month's high. Notable, huge red flag. Well, it's bullish. These are the things I like to see to basically give my action plan saying, okay, we're seeing a lot of red flags here that basically is positive towards the Russell outperformance. Okay. Here's the IW against the EFA. It basically bounced off. This is the monthly, holding up okay, both the extension, downtrend extension, and the uptrend extension. So you would expect that our Russell, our small caps, would outperform global small caps because EFA is ex-US market. Okay. Here's Dow Transports against the IWM. I thought this was kind of interesting. The Dow Transports is actually kicking ass right now. And this is not the monthly, it actually has broken this downtrend line. We got to keep an eye on that. So that would be the FedEx, UPS, the rails, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, Beth, ready to come on.
All right, my friend. Okay, let's do it.
All right, thank you so much, guys. Morning, what's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. There we go. All righty. So if you guys are new to chat, make sure to click the Discord link that's emailed to you. When you guys do come into chat, go to the new to chat information section at the top. Give that a read from top to bottom. I won't be going through that until we close down the YouTube stream. So give it a read yourself for now, and then we'll go through that in a little bit in detail. All right, pre-market tickers on watch, guys. What do we got going on today? A couple different things. EPEAM, Nvidia, Microsoft, SWK, NVX, and then SFIX. And NVX is gapping up right now. It's just actually looking at the news associated with those vaccine names, just looking for it actually. Australian Chancellor says lockdown for the unvaccinated will remain in place. Okay, so I guess Austria was saying that they'll lock down people that aren't vaccinated in that area. Maybe people are thinking that other countries will do the same. Anyways, let's take a look at what we got going on today. Epam Systems will replace KSU in the S&P 500 effective December 14th. Stocks gapping up on that. Nvidia gapping down slightly after last day's move. Microsoft, Samsung can collaborate over AR HoloLens project, gapping up slightly. SWK, Stanley Black and Decker announced it will sell its security business for $3.5 billion. Stocks gapping up on that. NVX was gapping down, but obviously associated with that news I just talked about, it's pushing up here. Same with mRNA and BNTX, as we can see. SFIX earnings beat EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 18.5%, but Q2 guidance was lowered and stocks gapping down on that lowered guidance. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. Intraday, the first two that we're looking at today, guys, EPAM and Nvidia. So let's have a look. So EPAM, Nvidia, let's have a look at these. So EPAM obviously gapping up. Let's take a look at this on the daily chart. So we're at about what, 655 a share. So nice move off the lows. It has some room for continuation to the upside today. Let's see exactly where we can get to. Alrighty, so I'll label at 50 MA. We'll get this range here. See, quite a nice chart. All right, let's take a look at the signature deck. Actually, I want to see if we get an upper end level. 6, 7, 7. That's actually fast. That should be fine. So reclaim of EMA support on the daily across the board, breaking a head and shoulders on the daily to the upside as well, with some room higher. Pretty good looking chart, to be honest. For continuation, that is. Pivot to the upside today will be that head and shoulders level, 648.48. That level is able to hold to get rid of towards 670.73, or sorry, 660.73 to 676.18. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback into the 640.37 to 628.55 on the downside. Over on EPAM, I'm going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point can hold. Let's take a look at Nvidia. Nvidia, yeah, Nvidia. Let's get rid of this. Alrighty. Okay. So 322.46 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold to room towards 328.95 to 334.75 on the upside. There we go. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Nvidia towards 314.44 to that 309.75 level on the downside. Overall, on Nvidia daily chart looks bullish consolidated for continuation of the upside. I like the short-term trend holding as well. So I'm gonna be looking for a pivot reclaim out the gate this morning and a continuation push to the upside to the top or upper end of this recent range high. So that is EPAM, and that is Nvidia. Let's take a screenshot of these two. Let's move on to the next. All righty. Let's take a look at Microsoft. Let's take a look at SWK. Which, surprisingly not a lot of volume SWK this morning, but still going to be gapping up on that sale. Doesn't matter, really. Get a little every single level here. Okay. So what do we got on Microsoft? Obviously, a little bit of a bullish consolidative move on the daily. Looks like it's flagging for continuation to the upside. We do have some room for a push if we can hold above this EMA support. Overall, let's take a look at that intraday chart here. Get last day's high as well. That's going to be the pivot to the upside today, 335.78. Unable to hold 333.46 to 329.83 will be tested. Able to hold 339.37 to 342.53 on the upside will be the next resistance. Overall leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push higher. Like the daily chart, I think it looks quite good. I like the fact that it reclaimed EMA support. That's what I was saying yesterday, this is kind of a change of a lot of looks across the dailies because you have so many things that have bounced and broken downtrends and gotten back above short-term EMA support. Today will be a key for confirmation to the upside. But I'll be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for, possibly a slight pullback, curl, and then a push back towards that EMA support. So bullish neutral within, or staying within last day's range, but holding up to give us that confirmation on the daily, in my opinion. All right, let's take a look at SWK. So stocks gapping up, 198 a share-ish. So 3.2 billion, what are these guys worth originally? Market cap of 30. So yeah, okay, that makes sense. The gapping up like 10%. Or sorry, gapping up close to that. They're like what, 7% right now, 6%, something like that. I think they could move a bit higher based off of what I just looked at in terms of the cost of that subsidiary and their market cap. All right, let's take a look at where we got room to today. So we'll mark that as well, the 15 May. All righty, so pivot to the upside today will be 194.27, able to hold, room towards 199.24. That level breaks. Room for further continuation into the 203.95 level. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 194.20. Sorry, 190.63. That level breaks. We see 186.13 tested on the downside. Overall on SWK, going to be leaning bullish neutral. Looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point can hold. It does look like it's going to be able to and push. So that's Microsoft. That's SWK. All right. Next two names, guys. NVAX, SFIX. Let's have a look. So NVX still gapping down. That pop was very short-lived. So yesterday I was talking about how this had the magnet of 50 MA, which it did test. Okay, this should be SFX. Let's see what she's got room to today. That's the gap area. That's the fill of the gap area as well as resistance. Pivot level here. Support. All right, let's take a look at NVX intraday. Interesting chart. $174.51 pivot. Levels able to hold to get room towards 183.77. So 192.41. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on NVAX towards 164.70, 158.59 on the downside. Able to hold, look for a push towards 183.77 to 192. 41. Overall on NVX, I'm actually leaning on the bearish neutral side today. If that pivot point's unable to hold, I think it will come in a little bit. It would be obviously a 50 EMA rejection to the upside. So we'll watch the pivot. If it's able to hold, then I do think it can get continuation to the upside because it'll be a 50 EMA break, obviously. And through that resistance, it does have some more room to bounce. So that is that. Let's take a look at SFIX. But I'll be leaning bearish neutral for now on NVX just because it's below that 50 EMA. So it will act as a pretty large resistance point for now. Stitch Fix, SFIX. Let's take a look at this. God, this thing is how the mighty have fallen, eh? This thing has gotten smashed. Not that we need to be up there, but look at all the levels. Oops. All right. Pivot to the downside today on SFIX 2014. Levels unable to hold. We got room towards 1815 to 1690. This level is able to be reclaimed. We got room for continuation higher towards the 2219 to 2479 on the upside. Overall on SFIX, going to be leaning bearish, looking for a continuation lower. I think one of the themes that we've continued to see this earnings season is obviously anyone that lowers guidance gets absolutely destroyed. So, and you typically get continuation lower, and I would expect SFIX to basically be in the same boat. So I'll be leaning bearish, looking for continuation of the downside today. All right, so that's NVX, that's SFIX. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. Market, what's going on here, guys? So obviously we were very consolidative intraday yesterday. We are extended to the upside on the daily gap fill area. It's going to be around some, okay. 461.31. I hate that. That was pulled down because it kind of screws up that EMA a little bit. Stupid misprint candles. Whatever, that's fine. Doesn't really matter. Our levels don't change. These levels at least intraday. So resistance or pivot upside today, 469.38 level holds, 470.52 to 472 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on the SPY towards 468.26, breaks 466.98 to 465.33, leaning bullish, neutral on the market, looking for a continuation push higher. One thing is this, guys, I think shorts are stuck. And that's what we saw this kind of tug of war all day long. They try to crack it at the end of the day, unable to do so. We got to push back up. That pivot's able to hold and we can start to push today. I do think we can squeeze in the market to the upside. Not sure how violent it can get, but that bullish consolidation, in my opinion, kind of meaningful in regards to how, or showing me that I think we can get a little bit more violent to the upside, but they're probably going to try to fight again to keep it in within this range. So we'll see. We'll see. It should be interesting either way. Let's take a look at Apple. So Apple pivot to the upside today is going to be most likely still 170.31, but let me just get my levels here. Get last stays high. Actually, 171.88 is what I want to use. After hours. Don't think I need the fib, but okay, it's going to be there anyways. Okay, I don't. Pivot to the upside today can be 171.89. This level is able to hold. 173.88 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Apple. Sorry, towards previous all-time highs, which is 170.30. That level breaks 168.31 to 166.83 will be tested, leading bullish neutral on Apple if pivot can hold. I continue to say it. I think, best way to play Apple, guys. Longer dated calls, like a month out, 2 months out. You do intra-week, during the day in the morning, I think. And then the best way to hold it, of course, is longer dated. Let's take a look at Amazon. So Amazon had a reclaim of support on the daily, which we're going to show you right now. So back above EMA support looks great for continuation higher. Pivot to the upside today is going to be this level right here, 35.26 levels able to hold. We're talking 35.50 to 35.72. And then eventually into that 36.03, which is the head and shoulders on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 34.84. That level breaks. We got room for continuation back to that 50 MA around the 34.59 area. Overall on Amazon, leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a hold of the pivot, continuation push higher today. Let's take a look at Netflix. I swear I made this the same, didn't I? There you go. All right, so Netflix obviously curling off the lows, lagging behind the rest of the SPY. Not a great look, but not terrible. Pivot to the upside today is going to be that 628.59 levels able to hold. 647.51 will be tested. There's a little bit of resistance before that. 638, which is the 50 MA area. 638.73 to 647.71. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 616.29. And then if that level breaks, 595.83 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Netflix, leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation push higher. So that is Netflix. All right, let's take a look at Facebook. All right, Facebook basically bouncing off the lows. Kind of extended to the upside, weirdly. Pivot to the upside today is going to be 322.85 level holds, 327.49 and 331.85 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 317.48 on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning actually on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a little bit of a pullback if that pivot point can't hold. But extensions have been holding, so we'll see what happens. But that's what I'm looking at right now. Let's take a look at Facebook. I'm sorry, Google. Let's look at Facebook, NR. Google, so flagging on the daily, tad bit extended to the upside. I do like this chart, one of the better looking of the FANG. Back above the head and shoulders, room towards all-time highs. So all good stuff there. Pivot upside today is going to be 29.51. Level holds, room towards 29.75.61. Unable to hold 29.23.14 to 28.94 on the downside. Overall, leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation grind higher on Google. All right, let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM. All right, VIX should be an interesting daily. So extended to the downside, room to the 50 MA, 2039 level. Okay. Pivot, 2249 level holds, 2350 to 2485. Unable to hold 21.16 to 2017 on the downside. Overall on the VIX, not leaning any particular direction, but keeping an eye on it for SPY direction, of course. Let's take a look at the QQQs. Pivot on the upside today, 308. Sorry, 399, let's call it. Room towards the 401.30 level if that holds the 402.36. Unable to hold 397.01, the 395.12 on the downside. Overall on QQQ. Meaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point's able to hold. Let's see what happens there. And then last but not least, guys, IWM. Let's have a look at that. Which I really liked, actually. At the end of the day, IWM, I thought the small caps would have some continuation today. Okay, so decent push off the lows. 50 MA is there. This looks like it's maybe a more bullish consolidative type day. Pivot upside 225.87, unable to hold 223.63 to 221.19. Able to hold, we look for a push on continuation into the 228.47 resistance on the upside. Meaning bullish neutral. Looking for a continuation push higher today if that pivot point can hold. So that's IWM. All right, SPY, FANG, individual names that we're looking at today. What I'm going to do right now, guys, is pass it over to Selby. Type up the pre-market action plan. We'll do a quick little recap before the open, and then we'll close down that YouTube stream. We'll be ready to go. So without further ado, Selby, if you're ready, it's all yours, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. I give it a second, guys. He'll pop on if he's ready.
I got it. Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Actually, I just got into New York, so it's pretty amazing. Anyway, okay. Let's see what we got this morning, guys. Wednesday, hump day. Okay. Fair amount of news out. Let's see how it's treating everything, what's going on. All right. We look at the 10-year, it's up 0.019 at 150. Okay. Kind of the middle of his range for the last whatever, month or so. And let's look at that curve, because that's the thing that's got me all hot and bothered here. Okay, so the curve is at 0.22, which is about as, I think they said it's the lowest since March of 20. All right, so that's speaking volumes to me. Okay, you have all these guys coming on TV telling you rates are going to go up, yada, yada, yada. But the curve is saying, I don't think so. So until the curve says it is, I'm not going that way. All right, let's look over in London. Their bond market is at 0.75 or 0.02, and pretty much everybody across the board, the rates are a little bit higher, some a little bit more than a little bit, but basically it's because of this Pfizer news, I would think. But but the curves on in all these cases is staying pretty flat. All right, very flat. All right, let's look at some commodities. We have oil flat, right? It was down earlier prior to the Pfizer news. Natural gas is at 386, which is just great news considering where it was at. I mean, this is an essential, right? Europe basically heats their homes with natural gas, as does a lot of Americans. So that's a real positive. Copper, really very little movement there, 433. It's been hanging out at that level. And then you got the agricultural commodities staying stubbornly strong. Okay. And that's that. Okay. Currency wise, dollars down against North America, up a little against the yen, but down a chunk against the Chinese currency, and it's flirting with its lows. Okay. 6.34. Okay. So that's very weak there. And the euro's at 113, pretty flat. Okay. So that's that. Let's look at crypto. We got crypto down below the 50,000 level still. All right, it was above it yesterday. And we had Novogratz on TV today. He thought the bottom would be like 43,000. You know, he's a big proponent of crypto. Tends to like Ethereum more, as he was saying. Ethereum was flat and Bitcoin's down almost 3%. Okay. Let's look at the foreign markets. So we have the FTSE flat. We have the DAX down 0.5%. It had a big rally yesterday, as we know. All right, Nikkei is up 1.4%. China's up today. I didn't see much going on except the news I talked about yesterday, lowering the bank requirements, reserve requirements. And that's up, what, about 1.5%. And then you have Hong Kong pretty flat. Okay, so that's what we got this morning. As far as that, banks and Fed, I don't think there's much news out, right? Everything is kind of the same out of that area. China, that reserve requirement thing is important, but I haven't seen anything else. Stocks gapped open yesterday and look heavy today. My narrative on these stocks stays the same. Trade them, don't own them. All right. Unless they're I always say government, they rule the roost. Government has not been kind to equities over in China, and until they change their stance, I think the point of least resistance is down. And I also think we're moving towards a delisting situation, or they're going to move, or what have you. So that'll make things a little messy. So I say stay away from these names. Okay, that doesn't change. Crypto, nothing to say there. We said it already, the virus. So yesterday, at the end of the day, we had some comments out that led us to believe that the vaccines weren't that effective against this new variant. All right. And this morning we wake up and Pfizer says, the futures were kind of down a tinge. They said that, when you get the booster, it's super effective, et cetera, et cetera. S&P's rallied to what, up 20 something, and now we're sitting back at 7. The market's had a good rally, so not that big a surprise. We'll see what Moderna says about their situation. And he was explaining he being the CEO of Pfizer, explaining how, the first dose builds a wall, and the second dose and the third, the booster just builds it that much taller, and it's effective against this new variant, which is very positive. And then you had the news out of Glaxo and VIR yesterday that said their antiviral is effective. So, and couple that with the fact that this variant does not seem to be doesn't have the teeth of the first variant, okay, and the second one. So, less onerous on people, I guess. And I think that's kind of sort of positive. All right, so decent news out on that front on the virus, right? Mr. Market yesterday had a monster day. They gave back a little at the end of the day, and in the last couple of minutes, they gained all of that back. It looked like they were going to try to hit them, and they just couldn't. There's just so much money sloshing around, guys, that equities, you look at the yield on these bonds, 146. There's not much to think about, okay? Clearly, equities are the best game in town by a mile. And, sometimes we are more bullish than others with the market, but the fact of the matter is the stocks, equities really have no competition at this point, okay? So you had, I wanted to discuss one thing with you guys this morning. Oh, by the way, so yesterday market Mr. Market. Semis were the strongest group, and high PE tech, HMOs, materials, big oil, E&P, FANG, and really nothing on the short side was terribly good. A couple of little pieces here and there you could have made money. I made some money short Telephone and Verizon. I made some money short CWH yesterday. And I was short something else. Oh, Comcast acted like death. I shorted that in a little LTs. So there were just spotty areas to be short. This Marko Kolanovic was on TV last night. I hope I'm saying his name right. But anyway, he made a really good point about the market next year. He thinks that the US is going to underperform because his narrative is that rates go higher. And with rates going higher, that's less positive for tech stocks. And he thinks the US equity market is tech centric. And for that reason, he likes, he thinks foreign markets are much cheaper and they are not tech centric. So he prefers markets outside the US. And I think that was an interesting point he made. Okay. I think it's worth thinking about. Okay. I really do. I think that's a really smart point. If rates go up, which everybody seems to think they will, except the bond market, maybe that narrative holds true. Okay. This morning, let's see. Numbers wise, RELL, FRG, PagerDuty, PD was good, PLAB, Weber Grills, that Lovesac, Play, THO, which surprises me because the stocks acted kind of heavy. Campbell's Beans even beat. Korn Ferry, which doesn't surprise me. They're employment firm. They did well. And as far as news is concerned, we had that DARE open. It's up. PSFE. They had insider buying. RKLB signed some kind of deal. Tilray had an acquisition. You know what I think of Tilray. Wynn named his new CFO. And that's that. On the short side, okay, we had the Stitch Fix. I don't understand why there is a stock that does what Stitch Fix does. I don't know why anybody would use it, but people do, but the stock looks like crap. This Sentinel was down, VRA. ChargePoint missed. That's down a little bit. How much is that down today? Just a buck. It's always just a buck unless you own it. Then it's, oh my God, it's down a buck. Casey's, AVAV, etc. Okay, and as far as other news, you had some stock offerings. VRRM is doing an offering. TTGT is doing a convert. ET an offering. Starwood's an offering. Like that. Okay, so that's the news on the gapping up and down. All right, let's move on to earnings. Tonight we have Path and GME report. GME should be a mover, and Napa, which is a big wine company out in California. And tomorrow we have Sienna and HRL. Okay, research. Let's look at that. Okay, what do we have there? Stitch Fix, everybody hates. Okay, downgrade. Some of these guys liked it. Basically, what we're seeing is targets like Evercore, 68 to 24, downgrade from outperform to equal weight. Everybody's downgrading the stock. This morning, the lemming situation. BDX was downgraded, outperformed to neutral, reduced the target to 260 at Piper, lack of catalysts. I'm not a real fan of Piper Research. Honeywell was downgraded by Bank America. Target goes from 270 to 245. Chart looks kind of crappy. Apple initiate at a neutral, targets 150. Stock's what, 171? So with a stock target of 150, it doesn't sound neutral to me. That sounds like a sell. Nevertheless, that's what they're saying. Neutral, target 150. This is surprising. Someone initiated roadblocks with an equal weight. I just think that the fundamentals in that company are just fantastic. This was the most interesting call in the day to me. The UBS initiates NXPI with a sell and a target of 170, stocks 238. And this is the part that I thought was interesting. Their verbiage about the reason they downgraded it, saying that the content in a electric vehicle is less than a combustible engine vehicle, and therefore with the move to EV, they don't like the stock. And I thought that was really interesting. Never knew that. And there was another call on the other side of the coin, which I'll get to in a second, which is also EV related, which I thought was the best call on the long side. All right, so anything else on the short side? Let's see. EVR was downgraded to equal weight, target 180 to 150. Morgan Stanley, they did some of these investment banking firms, so they didn't like that one, and they don't like Houlihan Lokey, which is an advisory type of firm. Initiate with a sell. Initiate with a sell. Targets 97. Stocks 108. So that's that one. And I think that's it, guys. Let's look at the best call on the long side. GT, Deutsche Bank, hold to buy. Target 29 to 32, stocks 21. Let me go exactly what they said, because this was super interesting to me and I was very surprised by it. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Hold to buy, target goes from 29 to 32. Company is a large beneficiary from the shift to electric vehicles. Electric tires, I didn't know there was a difference. Electric vehicle tires are selling for more than 30% above the combustion engine equivalent, and Goodyear is achieving a 60% win rate on EV programs so far. I didn't get why the tires would be different. I didn't think they were different, but obviously I was incorrect. And they like this stock based on that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, so that's that one. AutoZone, everybody likes that. Target goes to 2,200 at Raymond James, 2,250 at Wedbush, and that's it on that. Cowen likes CAT, gross margin operating margin expansion, which is positive. ON, this is KeyBank takes the target from 65 to 72. That's Starboard again. Guy's a monster. Big C, initiate with a buy, target 66. Spartan was trading that one yesterday. Stock's 41. ESTC, JP Morgan upgrades, neutral to outperform on price. For the same reason that I don't like selling stocks when they say the price is too high, I don't like buying stocks when they say the price is too low. The stock will tell you when it's a buy. You don't need it to be on price, unless you're in the investment business. We're in the trading business, okay? Exxon, reiterate the outperform, take the target from 71 to 73 at Barclays. Credit Suisse likes IBM. So they like IBM, they don't like Apple. I think they're 25 years too late. Target 164 in IBM, stocks 121. I did buy a little IBM yesterday, as you know. I think that's it. ITT was upgraded to buy. That's the gist of it, guys. Kathy was very quiet last night. Okay. What did she do? She bought some of this SGFY, 500,000 shares of that, and she sold 800,000 TAK. That's the least active I think I've ever seen her. She basically did nothing yesterday. And with the market moving the way it did, a little surprising, but that's how it goes, right? Syndicate, we have two IPOs, CING, 4.1 million. It was supposed to price between 10 and 12. Then they moved it to 810, and they priced it at 6. Okay, so seemingly a dog, and that's Aegis Capital. And Refi is going with JMP Securities. It's a Chicago-based mortgage REIT, kind of boring. I don't think something we would get involved in. All right, priced at the low end of the range. So both these IPOs seem not so great. All right, and there was 1, 2, 3, 5 secondaries: Owl, ACET, ET, Starwood, and VRRM. I may visit Starwood if I'll just watch that one probably. Okay, so that's that. Let's look at the group rotation and see what we can get from today. Maybe we can come up with some ideas. Okay, semis seem a little tired to me. All right, and the market seems like, you know, with the news that came out of Pfizer, I would have expected it to do better, but you know what? It had 2 great days, and maybe it just needs a day of rest. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. So, you know, with this new variant and stuff, you know, people I think are going to gravitate towards the airlines. And I think they're starting to move towards banks. You would think, you know, I would have thought the bond market would be a little better. I'm going to watch that carefully, because my inclination would be that the curve would widen, but it just doesn't seem to. And that's why I think people are buying them pre-open. So I'm kind of thinking reopening names. All right. So they're playing, you see how they're playing the market like rates going higher? You know, they're taking the banks up, and there's, you know, these high PE tech names seem a little heavy. The semis seem a little heavy, that kind of thing. So I think that's the way I'm going to play it. Retail should be decent. And we'll see if they flip-flop, you know. But as of now, that's how I'm thinking it. The reopening names will be better. And the company, you know, and people are playing like they think rates are going to go up. So, you know, those groups would be kind of soft. All right. That's really it. All right. We'll see how it plays out. You know, you can have any preconceived notion you want, but the market will tell you if you're right. All right. Early on. I've been well served not trading in the first 15 minutes of the day, and I'll probably do the same today. The market's got a little whippy lately in those first 15 minutes, and you find yourself in a hole. Maybe you should wait like I am, because that's what I found. All right. So I'm just going to relax, see how they open, see how the things fly, and get involved that way. All right. So that's kind of it for me. I'm out of time. Spartan, it's all yours, my man.
Alrighty, thank you, South Beach guys. Morning, what's going on? So let's do a quick little recap of this morning's stuff. So if you guys are new to chat and have already done so, click on the Discord link that's emailed to you. When you guys do come into chat, you want to go to the new to chat information section. We'll go through that in just a second when you come in, and give that a read from top to bottom. After we close down the YouTube stream, we will give it a read together. All right, anyways, you come into chat, it's going to look like this. Like I said, new to chat information. Anyways, pre-market tickers on watch. So let's take a look at what we got going on today. Everything's posted, pre-market action plan. So you can just pause this and read it if you want, if you're on the YouTube stream. See all the charts posted, yada, yada, that we went through this morning. Option side, same thing. I'll blow that up. It's probably too small for you to see. There you go. All righty, let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch. So a couple different things. What are we looking at today? Nvidia, EPAM, Microsoft, SWK, NVAX, SFIX, EPAM systems will replace KSU in the S&P 500 effective December 14th, gapping up on that. Nvidia gapping down slightly after last day's move. Microsoft, Samsung collaborate over AR HoloLens project. SWK, Stanley Black, and Decker announced it will sell its security business for $3.2 billion, gapping up. NVX gapping down after last day's move, but now it's, you know, moving to the upside back to almost flat. SFIX earnings beat EPS and revs year-over-year growth 18.5%. Q2 revenue lowered, stocks gapping down. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two names that we're looking at today, EPAM and Nvidia. So EPAM gapping up, pivot to the upside today is going to be the, oops, let's do that. There we go. Pivot to the upside today is going to be the 648.48 spot level hold, 660.73 to 676.18 will be tested. Unable to hold 614.37. Sorry, 640.37 to 628.55 will be tested on the downside, leaning bullish neutral on that name. Looking for a pivot hold and a continuation push higher. Nvidia 322.54 pivot level holds, 328.95 to 334.75 will be tested. Unable to hold 314.44 to 309.75 on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push there on the upside. Let's take a look at Microsoft. Let's take a look at SWK. Microsoft 335.78 pivot level holds, room towards 339.37 to 342.53. Unable to hold 333.46 to 329.83 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Microsoft, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher after a kind of a little bit of pullback and a curl and some basing there. SWK 194.27 pivot level holds, 199.24 to 203.95 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 190.63 to 186.13 on the downside. Overall on SWK leaning bullish neutral as well. Let's take a look at NVAX. Let's take a look at SFIX. NVAX 174.59 pivot level holds, room towards 183.77 to 192.41. Unable to hold 164.70, 158.59 on the downside will be tested, leading bullish neutral on that name. Let's take a look at SFIX. Sorry, bearish neutral if that pivot's unable to hold. 2014 pivot on SFIX, unable to hold, room towards 18.15. That level break 1683 will be tested, able to hold 2219 to 2479, and leaning bearish on that name, looking for a continuation pull to the downside today. Alrighty, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. SPY 469.38 pivot level holds, room towards 470.52 to 472.02. Unable to hold 468.26 to 466 on the downside will be tested. Over on the market, going to be leaning bullish neutral. Looking for a continuation push to the upside today. I'm just going to type this up real quick. This level holds, room into the 470.52 resistance. Breaks, we see the 472.02 tested. Pivot, unable to hold. Room lower into the 468.26 support. Breaks, we see the 466.98 level tested. Any bullish neutral on that as well. So we'll see what happens with the SPY, but it looks good in my opinion for continuation if that pivot point can hold up. All right, let's take a look at Apple. Apple pivot 171.89 level holds. You got room towards 173.88. Unable to hold 170.30 to 168.31. We tested on the downside. Overall on Apple leaning bullish neutral on that as well. Let's take a look at Amazon. Uh, 35.26 pivot level holds, 35.50 will be tested, 35.72 unable to hold, 34.84 to 34.59 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Amazon leaning bullish neutral. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix 628.59 pivot level hold, 638.73 will be tested, unable to hold 647.71. Unable to hold 616 to 650, or sorry, 595 on the downside will be tested. Overall leaning bullish neutral on Netflix, looking for a continuation push higher as well. Let's take a look at Facebook. 322.85 pivot level holds, 327.49 to 331.85 will be tested. Unable to hold 317.48 on the downside. Overall, going to be leading bullish neutral on that as well. Let's take a look, or bearish neutral on that. Sorry. Let's take a look at Google pivot. 29.51 level holds, 29.75 will be tested. Unable to hold 29.23 to 28.94 on the downside. Overall, on Google leaning bullish neutral on that name as well. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM. Sorry, guys, just trying to help somebody here. VIX pivot to the upside today is going to be the 21.16. Unable to hold 2017 will be tested. Able to hold 22.49 to 23.50 on the downside. Overall, leaning bullish neutral on that. Let's take a look at the QQQs. Pivot to the upside today. Not leaning any direction on the VIX. 398.99 on the Qs. Pivot. Levels able to hold 401.30 to 402.36. Unable to hold 397 to 395.12 on the downside. Leaning bullish neutral on that name today. And IWM pivot to the upside today. 225.87 level holds. We're in towards 228.47. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards the 223.63 to 221.19 on the downside. And leaning bullish neutral on that. So that's the SPY. It's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. If you have any questions, you can go to SpartanTrading.com. Otherwise, thanks for watching us on the YouTube stream. We do this every single Wednesday. So we'll see you next week. Actually, next week we won't be doing it just because admin will be traveling. So the week after, we'll be back to normal. Anywho, that's it, guys. Thanks, mods. Thanks.